Hey everybody, Mike Jeffers, Chicago Jazz Magazine, chicagojazz.com, and another episode of Around Town. And this time we are joined by Joe Policastro, a good friend of Chicago Jazz Magazine and mine. He's actually was on the hot dog show. He was used to come down to the hot dog stand, which has now been gutted out. And I think they're turning it into a Chinese restaurant. So a completely different theme, but I don't know, maybe they'll let me go in there and film videos. Who knows, right? We'll find out what's happening. But anyways, I digressed as usual. Joe's got a new recording out with his trio, the Joe Policastro Trio, called Sounds Unheard 2012 to 2022. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his upcoming gig October 7th and 8th at 10:30 p.m. at Andy's Jazz Club. They're also going back out on tour in 2022, which they haven't done since before the pandemic. So we'll talk a little bit about that with stops in Toronto and Canada and the East Coast and all over the place. I looked at they've got a pretty extensive thing happening here later in the fall and all that other good stuff. But Joe, how's it going? Welcome to Around Town.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about this new recording. Reading about what it is, it seems like you've taken some of the stuff that you've recorded in the past or haven't released in the past and kind of combined them all together into a compilation of your music, the Joe Policastro Trio music from 2012 to 2022. I mean, that's a lot of years there. I mean, is this from the what do you have, 5 different recordings, I think, out with the trio, something like that? Is this tracks from some of those that you didn't use and some live things?
There's nothing live on there. They're all studio recordings. So the long version of this was we actually have a full new record that's recorded. We did something with Ken Christensen at Pro Musica. And for those people who don't know, Ken, he was part of Name, and he does all these incredible, triple true stereo recordings. So it's like really, really hi-fi audio stuff, and he has that amazing shop, Pro Musica. And we recorded something in January of 2020, and it was going to come out on a label that Pro Musica was going to start, and then that got squashed with with COVID. And then I finally decided to release that, and I wanted to put it out on vinyl because it's such an incredible sounding recording with the way Ken does things. Yeah. And the vinyl backup is so severe that thing's not going to be ready until almost the end of 2023. Wow. So the tracks from that session that I wasn't going to use on the vinyl press. And then I had these other tracks that a while ago I was going to kind of just, I don't know if I was going to do like a Bandcamp thing, but it was about 4 tracks from our last album that we put out. And then I was like, well, let me just dig around and see what I've got. And I found some of these unused recordings, takes from like the pop session that we'd done, the movie album. And then I even had these tracks that we did in addition with the earliest version of that trio with Dan Eflin and Adam Sorensen. And I used one of those on there. So to get to your point, yeah, but they are all these things that just for whatever reason didn't make it on the other albums. And then, like I said, there's some brand new stuff on there as well.
Well, it's almost like the pandemic, because you're not the first artist I've talked to that actually went back into the archives and found all this great stuff that they had just sitting there. Because, when we weren't shut down, everybody was working so much. It's just real easy just to put things and all of a sudden they're just archived away and nobody ever does anything with them. It's almost like because we had to go on this pause, it almost seemed like it forced some artists to go back in and say, hey, wait a minute, this is really good stuff. I should actually do something with it. It sounds like that's what happened with you, right? Because you wanted to get something out.
Well, yeah, because actually, I mean, I didn't even really know during the pandemic if I was even going to sort of restart this trio. I mean, this thing was like so traumatic for artists in so many different ways. It was hard enough to just, get our lives back up and running as performers, to let alone go, oh yeah, I guess I'll start that group back up and reform all the contacts that have now been lost, all the venues that have closed, all the booking agents who've changed and stuff. It getting out of the habit of doing all that stuff and getting yourself back to it. So anyway, I did, we played some great shows like earlier this year. We did like a weekend at the Mill that was just fantastic. And it just seemed like, I think this fall things look stable enough. And I decided to book a tour, and things came together really nicely for that. And I thought, it'd just be nice to have something out this year and just really also sort of, I don't know, get excited about something again with it. So,
well, I mean, and it's a great way to do it because, I'm a big believer, especially with, when you go into a recording studio, for those of you that don't know, you end up doing, if you're going to put 8 tracks on a recording, right, you end up doing like 12 usually, and some of them never make it to the recording, or you do multiple takes of certain recordings and multiple takes, and then you pick one, but then, if you go back and re-listen to it 2 years later, it might sound, what, that's really cool. We should have put that one out. Why don't we do that? So this new one, which is Unheard, sounds Unheard 2012 to 2022 on Jeru Jazz Records, by the way, which is your record label. That's available on jptrio.com. So, I mean, it's a mixture of everybody. How many tracks are on this thing?
I'll have to look on the back. It's about, it's like 10 or 11 tracks or something out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
The majority of the record has, the core band, Dave Miller on guitar and Michael Avery on drums. And then, but there is, like I said, there's the earliest track from 2012 has Dan Eflin and Adam Sorensen, and those are the guys that did the West Side Story album with me.
Yep.
So there's just one track with them. There's a track that has Andy Brown on guitar, who was sort of guesting on the Pops record. And then Andrew Green is on drums for a couple tracks. I've had the good fortune of doing all of these live to tape sessions for International Phonograph. And for anyone that doesn't know them, I mean, you'd have to be a tape head. And I mean, these are literal reel-to-reel releases.
Oh, wow.
He records them on a 1/4-inch tape. And then there's hi-fi audio people that order, copies from that, and they can actually get what they call like gold copies or something too, or are exact replicas and stuff. And this started like right around the time that the pandemic started. He had started asking me about doing different projects for him, and I've done several with the trio. And Michael wasn't able to get up, and Andrew Green often subs for stuff in town. So there's a couple of tracks for those. But yeah, that's another odd thing that I've been doing, which is I've probably done 10 live to tape sessions now for International Phonograph.
Really? Well, that's we'll have to do another show on that, because that's an interesting concept. I've heard you talk about it probably. I think I might have heard you mention it or something, but I had no idea what it was. That's pretty damn interesting.
Yeah, he's put out tons of these with different artists, but I think he's just enjoyed some of the arranging things that I've done. So I've got a huge wide array of bands. Like I did one with like Thaddeus Tukes, and I did one of all film noir music with Chad McCullough and Reggie. Anyway, we'll talk about that later.
All right. So, and then you're at Andy's, but then you've got this tour that we briefly mentioned. It's a pretty extensive tour. I mean, how many weeks are you going on? I saw the first set of shows, unless I'm wrong, is October 26th through the 29th up at the Rex in Toronto. Is that the kickoff of it? And then you kind of head around from there. You kind of wheeled around from there. I mean, you've been to all those towns before, I think, right? Back before.
Yeah, this was all places that we have established relationships with, and I wanted to go back to places that would, that people know us, where we've had great experiences, and where we have really good relationships with the venues or the promoters too.
Yeah. So when you're touring with this group, because I'm always curious, it's not like a rock band going into a place where they sell out 300 tickets and it's a line around the block and everything else. I mean,
that's exactly what it's like.
Well, that is. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. Then no more need to talk about it. But you guys go in with a jazz group, and you're going in. I mean, you've got to do a lot of advanced PR in those specific cities, I would imagine, right? Is that you setting that up, or do the clubs, or do you have somebody helping you? I know August Forte helps you in town here, but I mean, is that something that you have? I've had
I've had people help me in the past, but the majority of the time, I just especially with the tour stuff, I'll usually just send out all the like press releases to the local media. And in the best of scenarios, like what you said, you work in tandem with either a really strong promoter or a club that has their you know what together.
Yeah.
So that's the most, and like the Rex is a fantastic example where it's a strong club that's very, it's similar to like the Mill or Andy's, where they have, you know, you can obviously add to the pool of people that would be down there, but it's going to be a busy room anyway. And this is a really cool thing with the Rex, where they've never done this. They switched their format after they came back after the pandemic. So they're doing, you get it's like the old style, like at the Showcase, where you're there for a week. So you get put up in hell, you hang out, you play every night, just two sets between 8 and midnight, and it's great.
Yeah. Well, that's congratulations to them, because the Showcase, for those of you that don't remember, I think it used to be Tuesday through Sunday.
Tuesday through Sunday,
right?
Yeah.
Tuesday through Sunday, especially when it was at the Blackstone. I remember the Blackstone, and then when they moved up to
even at Grand, Tuesday through Sunday.
Yeah, even on Grand. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And to be going, you go and see some of these guys on a Tuesday when there's there's 30, 40 people there, but they're hanging out, man. They're just, it's like, and you could tell if you heard them on Tuesday, by the time they got to Friday, it was like burning, because they had been playing and they're all really comfortable and they're all like locked into the room and the sound in the room and all that stuff. And I'm assuming that's the same way with you guys. Of course, you guys will just be burning right out of the bat. Obviously, it's no question about it. But that's cool. There are not a lot of clubs doing that at all.
No.
So the Rex, and that's an established club. But where else are you heading? Because you've got little one-offs here and there, right? You're going right down through a little bit through Canada and then down into the East Coast.
Yeah, we actually have to go back. The routing came together a little strangely for this one. So, and it just had to do, there's another really great club that this is the first time we're ever playing there, up in Kitchener. It's another real established place that's in Ontario, not far from Toronto. So that fell on a funny night. So basically we're gonna come back to Chicago for a minute, and then we're going to Cleveland and Buffalo, and then we're going down to Cincinnati and doing something down in Louisville, I think. And then we kind of dip up into Canada again and work our way over to Western New York, and hang out there. And then I think we dip back. I think hilariously, it's like we're in Ontario more than anything else.
I saw you were in Ontario a couple of times, right?
Yeah, I think we have, altogether between I think there's 5 different cities in Ontario that we're doing. It's like Windsor, London, Toronto, Kitchener. I guess that's also 4. Yeah.
So how is it? Do you know how it is getting over the border back and forth?
I went to Montreal not that long ago.
All right.
Everything seems cool now. They have, I think when you're driving, it's a lot easier. Flying, it was a little annoying because they have that, you have to have that Air Can app. You have to load it's God, every single country now, you have to get their app and load all their stuff. And,
yeah, good. It's good though, because you get this one under your belt and then you're off to the races again. And you get things back up to normal and you get things cranking. And, so the new recording, Sounds Unheard, 2012 to 2022, available on Jeru Jazz Records, and the jptrio.com is where we want to send everybody. And of course, if you're in town here in Chicago, Andy's Jazz Club, 11 East Hubbard Street, you guys are playing that late night set, 10:30 p.m. to 11:45 p.m., I believe, on October 7th and 8th.
Yep.
They came back with a new format too, because they used to just have the 9 o'clock show, or the 9:30 show would start. They'd have the 5 and the 9, but this is kind of cool. I like how they're doing it. And they have one group from 6 to 9:30, and then you guys from 10:30 to 11:45. And it's the perfect amount, an hour and 15-minute set right at the end of the night. It seems like a great way to check everything out.
Yeah, it's really, Andy's has come back strong. They came out of this almost better than ever before.
Yeah. Well, good. And I as we all know Chris and Jeff and everybody down there. Great guys. Great to work with as usual. So, all right. So next time we're going to talk about all this other stuff that we were discussing in the beginning of the interview. So stay tuned. There's our teaser, because this is nothing but a professional broadcast system here. So so there's our teaser. But Joe, thanks for jumping on. And of course, everybody go check out the new recording, thejptrio.com. And we'll see you at Andy's October 7th and 8th.
All right. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for watching. As usual, all the information is at chicagojazz.com, all our social media platforms. Until next time, I hope to see you somewhere out on the scene.